So, hello everyone, and welcome to the third version of the webinar on the Good Practice Database. Today we will be focusing particular in the topic of engaging the private sector for reaching NDC targets. My name, just so you know who is speaking on the other side of the microphone, my name is Carlos Jesus. I am an advisor for the section of climate change and climate policy for the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, or short, easy, and most famously known as GIZ. And I will be the person moderating today's webinar. But as is customary, I will keep it briefly. I will only do a short introduction and then quickly pass the floor to our distinguished speakers that we have today. So just to go through today's webinar's agenda, as I was telling, we will start with a welcome and a short housekeeping. Then I will do a short introduction to the Good Practice Database. In order to then go through the presentations of good practice examples that we're bringing in today. In particular, we're presenting a country example from Lebanon that's titled the Lebanon Climate Act, Engaging the Private Sector to Enhance Climate Action in Lebanon, and a country example from Chile called the Huella Chile Carbon Management Program, involving the private and public sector in climate change mitigation. We end the presentations with a question and answer section, so we do ask participants to please hold your questions until then. As it will be explained afterwards, you can access this section on the bottom of your screen. And after that, we will end with an outlook of this whole webinar series of more or less what has happened until now and what will happen in the near future. So just to go through some small technical details before we kick off, in case this webinar software is new to some of you, we are using the Zoom software. And as it might be new, if you experience any technical problems or you have any questions, we suggest that you go down to the bottom of your screen to the question and answer panel. You enter your question there, and we will have a number of colleagues in the background ready to assist you with anything that it's you need. Likewise, and to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, and a video recording of this webinar, along with the presentations, will be made available on the PATPA, on the partnership website, after the webinar. So if you miss anything, don't worry, you can access it afterwards, or if you would like to share with your colleagues or revisit some particular aspect that you particularly liked, we encourage you to go back to the transparencypartnership.net website and access the webinar again for your use. So just a brief introduction on what is the Good Practice Database and how basically it is the framework of today's webinar. The Good Practice Database serves as the name suggests, it serves as a central hub for case studies on or good practice on learning and leadership in climate action. It constitutes an easily searchable repository of good practice examples, including cases, for example, where climate action is being effectively designed and implemented, and cases in which countries have overcome obstacles to implementation, how they have overcome it, and most importantly, how countries can get ideas from these cases and how they can possibly scale them up or replicate them in their own contexts. The Good Practice Database was jointly established by several initiatives that noticed back then that we were all working on similar databases, so that in order to avoid duplication of efforts and overlapping of topics, this initiative decided to come together into just one full accessible database from all the partners' websites. The partners, in fact, that I'm mentioning are the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, or PATPA for short, the NDC Support Cluster, the UNDP NDC Support Program, the LEDS Global Partnership, and the NDC Partnership. And as I mentioned, this Good Practice Database is easily accessible from each one of their websites. Now, what you can find inside of this good practice database is up to 200 case studies from across the globe in a variety of sectors, themes, implementation stages. It is offered in 3 languages, English, French, and Spanish. And probably the most notable feature of this is how highly searchable it is. You can filter by tags, as you can see here in this image. In the right side of the image, you can see action area, countries and regions, and you can filter by each one of them in order to target whatever it is you're looking for. So for example, if you're interested in adaptation, you click on action area and you click on adaptation, and all good practice cases related to that topic will show on the left side of your screen. Same with mitigation, or if you're interested in a particular sector, say energy, transport, waste, you can also filter there. So it's easily customizable for whatever your needs are or whatever context is that you would be looking for in your particular case. Just 1 minute. Whoops. Thank you. I don't know if I did that. I'm sorry, I'm having apparently a technical problem with my mouse. But yes, so who develops this good practice database case studies? It's the PADPA, along with the UNDP support program and the NDC support cluster. They review this expansion of incoming good practice case studies, and all of this analysis is coordinated by GSZ and UNDP. But of course, the effort involves a much broader set of partners and participants. Right now, there are up to 55 new case studies that are under development by our partners such as Adelphi, the New Climate Institute, Libélula in Peru, the Energy and Resources Institute, or TERI in India, and the Centre de Suivi Écologique, or CSE in Senegal. I hope I said that correctly. I'm not a native French speaker, but it sounded right to me. Apologies if I did not. So those are our partners that are involved in developing the good practice database case studies. So that was now for the brief introduction, and without further ado, in order not to take more time of you, I would like to leave you with our first country example, that is Lebanon. The name of the country example is the Lebanon Climate Act, engaging the private sector to enhance climate action in Lebanon. Our distinguished speaker that will be presenting this case study is Lea Kai. Just to give you a brief introduction on Ms. Kai, she's the project manager at UNDP's climate change project at the Ministry of Environment in Lebanon. She has been with the UNDP since 2007, where she's responsible for preparing and reporting Lebanon's greenhouse gas inventory and studying climate change impacts on the country. She's also a member of the Lebanese delegation and has been negotiating the climate change agreement for 12 years so far. She has also held academic positions with the American University of Beirut. And regarding her academic background, Mrs. Kai received a bachelor's in environmental health and her master's in environmental technology at the American University of Beirut. And she's currently pursuing public policy studies at Harvard Kennedy School for Government. So without taking any more time, Leah, if you can unmute your microphone and now share your screen with us, that would be great.
For the opportunity to actually present Lebanon Climate Act. I'll try today to give you a brief overview of the initiatives, when it started, why it started, who are the partners in this initiative, what we have achieved so far, and maybe also share at the end some good practices, lessons learned, and also some of the challenges that we have faced. So Lebanon Climate Act was launched in July 2016 after the Paris Agreement, and it built on the momentum of the Paris Agreement. Everyone was talking about climate change at a national level, but also at a regional level, and the private sector were getting also the vibe of climate change. So we came together a group of institutions. So the main co-founder are UNDP Lebanon with an NGO called Green Mind. And we have built strategic partnerships with the central bank, Banque du Liban, which they provided some seed funding for Green Mind and for the initiative to kickstart the process. And the Chamber of Commerce in Lebanon as a propeller to reach out for more companies. And the main aim of this initiative was to help companies and help the private sector support the government in its newly set emission reduction target that the government had just presented at COP21. What specifically Lebanon's NDC? So Lebanon had pledged to reduce 15% of its emissions by 2030 as an unconditional target, and 30% conditional to support finance, technical support, and capacity building. And the sectors that are included in the NDC are the energy sector, the transport sector, forestry, and waste, all of which can be directly related to the private sector's performance, products, and services. And the NDC also linked, and in 2015 we had the NDC, but also we had the SDGs, and we have the global compact networks around the world, and companies were anyway starting also to get involved in SDGs. So Lebanon Climate Act also was a platform to help companies to link climate action with other environmental SDGs. So we had approached back then in 2016 big companies, but also small companies from all sectors. We have industries, we have banks, we have commercial institutions such as malls and retail companies. We also have very small offices, services. We have car companies, logistic companies. So it was a very broad group of companies. And what we promised them, actually, we promised them some benefits, and we showed them how they can benefit from joining the act. So as the Lebanon Climate Act, if you want, secretariat, we help companies, we train companies, we build the capacities to calculate and reduce their carbon footprint, and hence reduce their savings. Decrease the risks, actually identify the risks from climate change, and try to decrease the risk on their activities. But also create opportunities for new products and new services, so create value from climate change. Also, we form this network of companies, and we keep them updated. What's happening in the world, what's happening in Lebanon, through newsletter, but also through our social media pages. Facilitate the generation of science policy interaction between academic institutions and private companies. Also share best practices, promote the governance and partnership, enhance visibility and social responsibility through the organization of, if you want, high-level events with senior management, with important and prominent keynote speakers. One year we had Carlos Ghosn, the other year we had the governor of Banque du Liban. We usually have ministers and parliamentarians. So by organizing these high-level events, usually private sector are attracted to being visible there and to be present in such an exclusive network of companies. We also try to provide access to support to companies. Through our network of partners in the world, we try to mix and match needs from private companies with support provided. And we have established, so as part of the services that we provide, we have established what we call business knowledge platform, and it's under this where we actually generate knowledge and good practices and communicate this to our members. So, for example, every year we have a series of workshops to guide them through the process. From where they stand in terms of carbon footprint, how to be inspired, how to prepare a climate action plan, and how to share and report their experiences. And we have had this for the last 3 years, and the last one was actually last week. And it's really successful training programs attracting a lot of companies. We have also, so based on this, we have also developed a guidebook on actually how to create value from climate change. And it's a step-by-step guidebook that any company, any CSR person, any climate change champion or ambassador, what we call them inside companies, can just follow the steps. It's a very interactive guidebook with a lot of examples and a lot of, it's really user-friendly. And it walks the user from identifying the champion, the stakeholders, to actually understanding climate change, reporting carbon footprint, preparing a climate action plan, and reporting progress. So, and this is part of what we expect from our members. So how members join and what do we expect from member companies? First, they have to sign. So by joining online, by joining, they have to sign a pledge, the Lebanon Climate Act pledge, which is a very, if you want, a conservative or flexible statement that says that we as Lebanese major institutions and businesses, we are part of the movement and we are engaged to reduce our carbon and environmental footprint. Then they have actually to calculate and report their carbon footprint. They cannot be engaged without knowing their own carbon emissions. So we have developed a carbon footprint calculator that is available online for everyone, and it's based on simple worksheet Excel calculation, where you can just enter your electricity bill, electricity consumption, diesel consumption, your cars. So it's really scope 1. And once you generate, it generates automatically your carbon footprint in terms of CO2 equivalent. And then you just print it, sign it by your internal auditor, by a certified auditor. You submit it to the Ministry of Environment. And as you can see here, every year we have a big ceremony where the minister himself gives a certificate of reporting to all companies voluntarily reporting their carbon footprint. And this was the incentive that we could provide. They also have to prepare a climate action plan. Which actually dictates what are the activities, what are the sectors, the activities that they want to implement as part of their climate engagement. And it goes really in details. For example, these are some examples of our members. Let's say we have from paper reduction, waste management, electricity demand. So what is the target? What is the initiative? Who are the people that are responsible, and how to measure this? This is, for example, another one where they have also integrated measures related to transport by doing routing efficiency for their fleet. We always see energy, but we also see a lot of companies wanting to get involved in waste, in water efficiency, and in reforestation. So once they prepare the climate action plan, they submitted also to the Ministry of Environment, and one also of what we expect from them is to mainstream and communicate climate change. So, for example, this is in the CSR report of a big bank in Lebanon, where they actually make it public that what is the carbon footprint, how much they are saving by doing mitigation measures, and they also established something called My Carbon Footprint microsite, where they where they support students in schools to calculate their own families' carbon calculators, and this is the carbon calculator. For example, here is a major fuel importer. They also had a big eco-driving campaign as an activity, as a climate change activity. And finally, we encourage them to be climate change champions. What is a climate change champion? Is a company that actually does all of the above and submits them to the Ministry of Environment and starts implementing its climate action plan. And we also do a big ceremony where we celebrate them. We give them the opportunity to share their experience, and they receive this little trophy that they can put in their wall of fame in their own companies. Until this date, we have around 140 organizations that have registered. 120 of them are private sector companies. Other are NGOs. We have also municipalities that are registered. Some good practices and some elements that actually contributed to the success of this initiative. We have established very strategic partnerships, whether it's from the central bank or from the or with the Chamber of Commerce. So central bank provided, if you want, the credibility with the private sector, but also the seed funding. Other partnerships were with the Association of Lebanese Industrialists to be able to reach out to industries. We have also established partnerships with for example, small accelerator like Agritech, Beritech, GCNL, the Global Compact Network in Lebanon. So all of this allowed us to actually reach out to more companies. Mobilize funding. This is very important to sustain the activities. We succeeded in having some also seed money from an EU project called the Klima South, where we could develop some of the training material. But I must confess, funding has been scarce lately, and we're having some difficulties on actually sustaining activities. So find propellers, institution to scale up outreach, I've already explained it. Communicate with both senior executive and middle management, and not, so both of them and not neither nor, because sometimes we're lost in translation. Simplify concept and tailored trainings. The trainings are very much tailored to Lebanon, to Lebanese conditions. We make sure to give examples that are relevant to the companies represented in trainings. And this is why it was very important to develop a guidebook that was specific to Lebanon, with Lebanese emission factors, with Lebanon climate change impact, and not just general practices. We have also linked to other similar initiatives so that we all actually come to private companies. So we're not competitors at the end. We all complement each other. We work together. We might be working on SDG 13, others might be working on SDG 7 or SDG 10. But it's very important for us, initiatives or international organizations, to really show complementarity in our activities. We also link them to national policies. So by linking it to the NDC, by giving the private sector a role in enhancing the environmental performance of the country, is actually bearing its fruits, and they feel like they're doing something. And by the way, we have some climate action plans where one of the activities is to actually lobby for the issuance of some relevant laws in the country. Because, for example, the CEO or the chairperson of the specific company happens to also be a parliamentarian. Finally, always ensure visibility and constant communication. I can't say it enough, private sector love this. Finally, some of the main challenges, I think it came up during the previous slides. So it's very, very challenging to sustain operations through funding. But also sustain engagement of companies. We have to follow up very closely with them, always be present. It's like really nurturing a small plant. Involving senior management also is a challenge because of other priorities. Turning climate action plans into real action. Sometimes it stops at just presenting a climate action plan, but we don't see really big implementation activities on the ground. And also we don't see scaling up of the action. Sometimes it stays at a very small scale level, at the level of the companies, whereas we are pushing and encouraging them to scale it up and do more bold activities. Finally, one of the main challenges also is tracking and reporting progress. So once they become a champion or they receive a certificate for reporting, so they got their 5 minutes of fame, sometimes it's difficult to follow up with them and tracking their progress. This is it for me. It's a very quick snapshot, but I hope I give you really the juice of it and a good analysis of the last 4 years of operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah, for that very interesting presentation. Indeed, there's a lot of aspects that strike me as very interesting from the way Lebanon framed their climate act. In particular, this concept of helping companies to support the public sector achieve its target. I think that's a very innovative way of looking at the issue. Basically, what you mentioned about building capacities and everything in order that the private sector would get better engaged. I think that's a very interesting approach that might not be as widespread as we would hope for. So maybe some other countries can look into it. So, sorry, I was not sharing my screen. So again, I ask participants, probably the presentation left a lot of questions. We ask participants, for the ones that are joining now, to hold them until the end of the next presentation as well, and we will address them at the end of that section. So now to move on, we're going to move on to the country example of Chile. The country example is called the Huella Chile Carbon Management Program, involving the public and private sector in climate change mitigation. Our speaker today is Sebastián Andrés Garín Figueroa. And just to give you a quick introduction on Sebastián, he's an environmental engineer and holds a master's in clean development mechanism and energy efficiency from the Pontificia Universidad Católica of Valparaíso. He has 10 years of work experience in consulting on climate change projects, development of sustainability indicators, and evaluation and design of energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. He's currently the coordinator of the Huella Chile program at the Ministry of Environment, and that is exactly the good practice case that he would present to us today. So Sebastián, I would invite you to unmute your microphone and take over the screen sharing.
Okay, thank you, Carlo. You can listen me?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, I can share my screen now. Okay, you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can all see your screen.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Carlos, very much for the invitation and presentation, and good morning, everyone. Sorry, good morning for time in Chile. Then I will talk about a voluntary initiative that we developed in Chile called the Huella Chile program. The Huella Chile program is an initiative that operates in the Ministry of the Environment and is financed by international entity through the UNDP in Chile. The program helps meet the country's commitment on mitigation of climate change commitment and the NDC contributions presented under the Paris Agreement, and is described in the initiative in the National Climate Change Action Plan on the mitigation measures MM22, and these measures is inside of the line of actions 13 to promote transversal mitigation actions. Well, Huella Chile program was born in 2013, has an idea, and begins its operation from 2015. The program is funded through the NDC support program, management through the UNDP, and financial by the United Nations International Cooperation Fund to help countries fulfill their commitment in the Paris Agreement. The financiers are the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany, the Germany Ministry of Environment, and the Spanish International Development and Cooperation Agency. The methodological framework is based on the NCH ISO 140 and 64. The principal target of the program is to encourage the calculation and reporting of greenhouse gases in the public and private sectors organization in Chile. For that, we have 3 lines of work. The first is corresponding to the creation capacity in the organization for quantify and management the greenhouse gas within the organization. For this, we carry out training seminars and face-to-face workshops throughout Chile with the purpose of publishing the context of climate change. What are the risks and opportunities that organizations are currently facing, and how they can prepare to face the risk and take advantage of these opportunities that arise. The second line of work corresponding to a free online greenhouse gas quantification tool, which we provide the organization that voluntarily register for the program. This tool has a manual to facilitate this use, and additionally, we generate monthly training in face-to-face format in the office of the Ministry of Environment to facilitate its use and answer any question that users have. And the third line of work, not less important, is the delivery of recognition stamp or seal at the level of progress present by organization in carbon management. The way sorry. The way Chile seals are designated as a process of continuous improvement which recognize the progress of organization in the implementation and management of carbon within the company. The first seals you can see on green in the presentation recognize the quantification of GHG measured and verified for a specific year at the organization level. The second seals recognize the implementation of projects that reduce GHG gases, which are quantified for at least 12 months. The third seals of the program recognize the neutralization of an organization emission bar by purchasing carbon credit for local implementation projects accredited by international programs recognized by the United Nations, such as the CDM program or BCS program, among others. In the case of the program, in case of Chile, the neutralization must be carried out according to the local methodology Chilean start about NCH 3000 and 1300, which standardize the process of compensations and communication of neutrality of GHG emissions of the company. The last seals of the program recognize the internalization of the carbon footprint in the process of continuous improvement of organizations, using the carbon footprints as a management indicator in the field of sustainability to assess the performance of the organization. The last seals is evaluated basis of the fulfillment of 3 attributes defined by the Huella Chile programs that reflect the internalization of carbon management through, as an example, the attribute of commitment, the first attribute. It supports that the organization has a policy or a strategy that describe a goal or an action plan for carbon management. Another attribute assesses the level of cooperations between different company or value chain organization. Another attribute evaluates the incorporation of management of carbon in quality of environmental management process that may be implemented through the ISO 14001 or 19001, among others, by meetings the organization to obtain the seal, the last seals being meet 4 of the 7 attribute. Organization can now obtain the last seal. The arrows in the chain reflect the minimum requirement to advance to the next category. The only seal that is not required to move forward is the neutralization seals, because the main objective of the program is carbon management and not to encourage the purchase of the carbon credits. It's important to reflect that each of the STEM involves verifications by an independent third party. The currently status of the program, we have more than 85 organizations registered in the program since the beginning of the program's operation. More than 218 recognition seals have been delivered at the different level of program, and more than 1,500 people have been trained at the currently. It should be noted that of the stamp delivered, close to 90% are first level stamp, which recognize the quantification of the carbon footprint. 6% of the seals have been delivered for the implementation of projects that reduce GHG emission, and only 1 organization obtained twice the neutralization seals, and 2 organizations have obtained the last seal of recognize the excellence. Of the registered organization, 90% belong to private sector. That is very important for us because but beyond the seals delivery, the main value of the program is the link that has been developed with other local initiatives and programs that have a similar objective that of Huella Chile. Through the National Sustainability Public Procure Plan of Strategic Agency, the incorporating of organization into Huella Chile program is recognized and promoted through the delivery of 5% of points for companies that present the Huella Chile seals in state tenders. The calculation tool of Huella Chile is insert in the sectoral system of Ministry of Environment in the RETC platform. That platform consolidates the environmental information the organization report in the mandatory and voluntary way the Ministry of Environment. In Chile, we have a certification for municipalities, which encourage environmental management at a transversal level within the entities that represent citizens. This certification at its advanced level incorporates the work of municipality with the Huella Chile program to incorporate carbon management within their organizations. Product of this link today, we have 61 municipality enroll in the program of a universe of at least 360 municipalities. The green statement, we call in Chile Estado Verde, that is a very important seals that launched this year, and for that seals, we have one case of successful in the way of Chile, because the call organization called Cenabas, for that Cenabas success story promoting carbon management in their value chains, and to incorporate one additional point in their supply standards. For that initiative, we have incorporated in the last year 26 pharmaceutical laboratories and one logistic operate unit for the Huella Chile program. Other initiative is very interesting for us is the APL for the initiative, or in English it's a CPL program, promotion the incorporation of suppliers to the Huella Chile program. And that today we have 8 APL agreement, and with 160 white company have joined the program and participate to management the carbon inside of the organization. And the last, in Chile, the Agency of Sustainability Energy, we in this moment work together to homologate of seal and reduce the cost of verification of project that save energy and recognize safe energy project implementation in the organization, and that's project what the similar way reduce GHG emission, and we recognize both characteristics in the for the organizations. Now we work in the currently for vinculate the program or link the program with international others initiative. One of them is the Global Climate Action of NASCA. At the present, we are formalizing the link of Huella Chile with the international platform of the United Nations NASCA for the recognition of climate action of the private sector, and encourage the use of the international application in the field of neutralization of Huella Chile. Additionally, we are formalizing a collaboration agreement between the CDP and the Huella Chile program, which will deliver additional point to organizations that report in their accounts the quantification and verification of their GHG emission with the program seals Huella Chile. And finally, we are formalizing the recognition of the Huella Chile program by the International Carbon Neutral Certification. At the present, we are formalizing the Huella Chile sorry, we advanced, yes. Yes. The national level, we are currently linked with link the Huella Chile program with the Tourism and Hotel Sector Sustainability Initiative, the local initiative, with a sustainability certification for a school, and with other ministers to promote management and capacity and create capacity building in organizations. In this case, of the Ministry of Public Work, we are developing the incorporations of the carbon footprint measurement in the tenders constructions for a project with life cycle scope. In the private sector, we are linking the program with different association of small, medium-sized, and large-scale company in order to foster the interest of organization to participate in voluntary initiative that promote the incorporation of sustainability criteria in their process and operations. In that year, for this particular year, since the COP will be held in Chile, for that we have developed a new line of seals which recognize the quantification and neutralization GHG emission, but mass event level. Today we working directly with the COP25 production team for measuring the carbon footprint of the event and the different for of the different activities developed for the event, which will culminate with the recognition of the seal of Huella Chile. We present in the presentations. In addition, giving the call for climate action by the United Nations, we have developed together with UNDP environment 3 standards that allow us to quantify 40 reduction action implemented in 3 sectors of Chile: the municipal sectors, the agro-business sectors, and the transport sectors at the terrestrial level. These guidelines make it easier to calculate emission reduction resulting for the implementation of this initiative by promoting recognitions of the second seals of the Huella Chile program. We must continue with the development of methodology that allow quantify emission reduction to the implementation of climate action with organizations. For that, we encourage reduction actions in the target with a scope inside of the organization. We now to work for linking the program with local and international initiatives to promote the registry inside of the program for the private and public sector. We work to promote the recognition of the seal of the programs in the local scope and in the international scope. Currently, the 90% of registry organizations are local in the capital of the country. For that, we need to promote the regionalization of the program. For that, we must promote awareness of capacity building in the rest of the region of Chile. At present, the verification process is a barrier for organizations to obtain program seals. So it is a part of the challenge for us, and search for alternative to reduce verification costs so that our registry organization can obtain the seals of the program. Currently, only the 20% of the registered organization has completed the process of obtaining one of the seals of the program. And others next challenge for us at the present is the optimize the program communication challenge and promote new capacity building tools. We now thinking in the e-learning platforms to promote the create of capacity buildings not only in the region, the capital of city in Chile, to encourage of the challenge to regionalize the program. At the present, we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have management to register more than 80 organizations in the program. However, we are representing less than 1% of the total private organization. register in the country. So we must continue to find ways to increase the private sector interest in carbon management to the new links and new acknowledgement to their advance and giving them a value beyond their reputation of program sales. Well, that is all, and thank you very much to listen and to interest in the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, for the interesting presentation. Yeah, but again, I find it interesting how the program actually contemplates providing technical support so that everybody's has the capacities to participate in this, and in order to bring the private sector on board, which, since according to your presentation, is actually represents the overwhelming and numbers in this that participate in this program. Also, I think your microphone is still on.
Yes,
So I would
I off the
appreciate it.
program. Yes.
Okay, great. So for now, I have to share my.
Okay.
Now I'm sharing mine.
Yeah.
So now that the presentations are over, we would like to go through the question and answer session. We would like to open it. Just a short reminder for everybody that you can enter your questions or comment using the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. You can find it at the bottom of your screen in like it's shown here in the right-hand side picture. And the way it works is that you type in your question, and me and the rest of the team will be reading them and taking them to the speakers in order for them to address them. Just 1 second, having problems with my, apologies for that. Ugh. I seem to be running with some technical problem.
Carlos, maybe while you work out, this is Allison here.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I could just jump in and pose a question to the two speakers, which the presentations were really interesting, and I think my understanding is that there's been a lot of peer-to-peer exchange that's been taking place, both with the Lebanon Climate Act and then as well with Chile, where other countries over the years have been hearing about the advances that are taking place and are really interested from learning of the two different initiatives. So I was wondering if Leah and Sebastian could maybe give some information about the exchanges that they've done with different countries, and just giving the listeners an idea maybe of what is also possible to learn working directly with other countries as well and learning from their lessons. Maybe if Leah wants to take it first.
Yes, sure. Hi again. Yeah, thank you, Alison, for the question. I think a lot of lessons can be actually drawn from the experience of other countries. But we didn't really find a lot of countries actually having such an initiative that we could extract some lessons learned. Most of the cases, we were the ones sharing our experience and sharing our lessons learned from the initiative, rather than learning from others. The LECB project gave us a lot of opportunities to be visible and to actually present the initiatives to the international community. Also through the UNDP, the Turkey office, the regional office, we were also able to share some, to participate in side events, to send some of our members, and this was actually very beneficial to learn. But I think there's still is a lot of opportunities to learn from each other, and I personally loved the presentation of Sebastian. Thank you for that. I think you are much more advanced than we are, and I think there is a lot of lessons learned that we can get from you. And maybe also I'll take the opportunity to ask my question. So I see you have a lot of members. Did it happen that you have the case where you had like to kick out a company from the network because, I don't know, they received the seal in 2017 and then they disappeared? Do you actually retract the seal or not?
Sorry, Leah, I don't listen the last question. You can repeat? Hello? You can listen me?
Yes, yes, we can listen.
Yeah, okay. Leah, you can repeat the last question?
Yes, my question was that did it happen in your case that you had like to kick out one of the companies from being a member because they did not comply with what with the criteria, or you give this on an annual basis only?
Yeah, yes. Now we can only use the annual basis for the organizations. And for the challenge and lesson learned for the program, well, it's very important for us. The first is the program has a voluntary initiative. That is very important to work with the organization that to promote or the manifesting the interest of the incorporate that initiative inside of the organizations. The other important issues of the program is that not only focus the program to give the seals of the organizations, because the main objective of the program is to promote the management of the carbon inside of the organization. That is the main target for us, and for that we promote first the know what is your impact of the emission of GHG, and second, when you know how is the GHG emission and in what activity is presenting more impact, you can incorporate an opportunity to improve the process and implementing reduction initiative for the reduce and management the emissions. That is very important to us. The second is is not focus the recognize side of the program in the big target. We separate the advance of the organization in the fourth step, and we recognize the small step of the organization. When the organizations quantify that emissions, that for us is complete the first step, and we go to work together in the second and to advance with focus on the short or medium time to obtain the last seal of the program to incorporate the inside of the sustainability indicator of carbon footprint. The other lesson learned is because it's very important for us to promote the interest of organization is to link with other initiatives. When start the programs, the interesting of the organization is zero. Is the private sector is not interested in the programs or Way at Chile program. For that, we link with other initiatives that started in 20 or 10 years before, and for that we promote the advanced organization to inciting the others initiative, and with them we start to incorporate in the program. For that, the last year when I arrived to the program, we start with about 350 organizations. In less of 1 year, we double the number of the interest. I think one of the condition is because the COP25 inside of the Chile, and of course, promote the interesting of the organization in the climate change actions, and the second is with the organization understand that the climate change is a very important issue, not only for Chile and the government, is very important issue to the international organizations, and we understand to the climate change not only for communicate, because the climate change now representing for risk for the organization, and they don't know how to management that, and they don't know how to start with the management of the climate change actions. And for that, we promote and present the program for have a structure to incorporate and start to incorporate the climate change action inside of the organization. Now, with the focus in the program, we have to link and we start to promote with other countries. What example is the Huella Peru. Huella Peru started the last year, and now we have to link two programs. And for that, companies, the Chilean company, we operate in the different country. We can, and they incorporate in Huella Chile. We can start with the similar work in other countries. We now started in Peru, and we hope to replicate in other countries of the region.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Apologies, but we will have to leave it until here. There are more interesting questions that were sent to us to the question and answer section. We will make sure to redirect them to you, the speakers, so that you can answer them, and then we can, I understand that we can send them backwards when we send the email of with the results of this webinar. So just to close it, thank you very much to both of you for the participants for the questions that they made and for the answers that you provided. Just to close this webinar, we would just like to go through this outlook of what this webinar set has been. There has been 2 previous webinars that you can find in the PAPA website. There you can see the names of them, and you can find more information there as well. There's another webinar coming called Using Innovative Finance Instruments for Ambitious Climate Action, that will present 2 good practice country cases from British Columbia and Fiji, and it will take place the 18th of September at 11 p.m. CEST. You can register to the webinar throughout the website, but you will also receive an invitation like you did to this one. We encourage you to keep joining these webinars so that you can keep learning good experiences that you can share with your colleagues. At the same time, we also encourage you to check the database where you can find these presentations. The case studies that we're presenting today, you can find them in more detail with a particular section on challenges and how to replicate them. So that's it for today. We would like to thank you very much for your participation. We hope to have you again for the future webinar, and have a good day, evening, night, depending on whatever time zone it is that you are right now. I would also like to thank Adelphi and my other colleagues at UNDP, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, Carlos. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Carlos. Bye, everyone.